This is Tanbay / Tansley Emily coming at you from the Timberline Debate Classroom. Today we're going to talk about history's three greatest philosophers, Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. Now first up is Socrates. So a lot about Socrates comes from what Plato wrote, and from his students that observed a lot about him. One thing that Socrates tried to do was he attempted to establish an ethical system based on human reason rather than theological doctrine. He also tried to point out that human choice was motivated by a desire for happiness, and that the ultimate wisdom comes from knowing oneself. The more a person knows, the greater he or she has the ability to reason and make choices that will bring true happiness. He also believed that a lot of his beliefs translate into politics, and the best form of government was being neither a tyranny nor a democracy. Instead, the government would best work when individuals rule, when they were ruled by individuals who had the greatest ability, knowledge, and virtue, and possessed a complete understanding of themselves. And now on to Aristotle and Plato. Now my partner Emily will talk about these two.
Alright, so I talked about Plato and Aristotle. So first up is Plato. He tried to answer Socrates' questions about the nature of justice and the forms that it takes on. And he did so because he believed that Socrates was morally sound and just. So he agreed with kind of his basic ideals about life and morality and how people should live their lives. And he wanted to explain what allows us to label things, people, and situations as either just or unjust. And then he also stated that justice comes after actions are performed and morality is brought into question. So that was kind of basically his ideas on how morality should be affected by the way society works and stuff. And then in one realm, he believed that people form their own opinions, and in the other, things are simply true because they are and have always been. And the two different realms that he focused on were the being and the becoming. And this whole philosophy exists within the image of the divided line, which is one of his biggest accomplishments. And so the divided line that he proposed divides human knowledge into differing degrees of clarity and truth. And so the four levels are Aikasia, Pistis, Dianoia, and Noesis. And the first two levels deal with opinion, and the last two deal with concrete knowledge. And then Plato wanted to explain and show the complexity of reason and help people understand philosophy by playing off of what Socrates had already proposed. And he argued that some people are actually able to find a moral high ground, and that the free man isn't burdened by morality and its problems. And finally, he believed that people are chained to the concepts of justice, beauty, and goodness, all of which are essential components of the basic human condition, which was the overall focus of his work. And then next is Aristotle. So he was the third of the Greek philosophers we were focusing on, and he studied at Plato's Academy for around 20 years, and he went there when he was 17 years old. And he disagreed with Plato's concept of the forms, which were the justice, beauty, and goodness previously mentioned, and the impact on the human condition. And instead he proposed that rational beings could discover the essences of things, and that a being's essence is its potential fulfillment. And potential fulfillment is essentially the idea that every person and thing has a destiny in the world. So potential fulfillment is basically another word for a person's path in life. And then Aristotle believed that people are destined to think and behave rationally, and that all people have to be able to relax at times in order to live successful lives. And he also thought that ethical people have practical wisdom and know how and when to apply it. And his ethical beliefs dealt with how those with practical wisdom determined what was right and wrong, because in his eyes, those are the people who decided what was just and unjust and what was morally sound. And and the most practically important thing in life, according to Aristotle, is the creation of a good politician and a good political order, because both ensure safety and security, which he believed were central to a good life. And then he also proposed the idea of Nicomachean ethics, which says that people find happiness in the ways that they live their lives, and that all humans want to be happy. And just to connect it to psychology, this is similar to Erik Erikson's stages of development in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And finally, Aristotle explained how and why people find happiness and how ethics plays into the search for happiness. And that's our presentation on the three Greek philosophers.
See ya.
Goodbye. Oh, lift it up. I thought you had it up. Wait, no.